Us today to learn more about understanding A through G requirements. I'll go right into our content. Just a really quick, brief introduction. My name is Denise Adeliano, and I am the College Access Manager at Improve Your Tomorrow. We'll go over towards the end of which sites we are present at, so that if you have students and you may be interested in, joining the program, we can get that connected. But today our focus will be going over the A through G requirements as well as the collegiate systems. I've been at IYT for about 2.5 years. I got my bachelor's from Sonoma State and then my master's at Harvard University. And at IYT, I've had the roles of the College Academy Mentor, which are the people working alongside the students at the school site, and then the College Advisor and College Access Manager as well. So I'm in charge of helping our mentors, getting them trained up, and supporting our students with all things college-wise, from applications, financial aid, as well as the logistics planning of our college tours. So for the agenda today, we'll be going over the college systems and applications, just the different systems of higher education that our students can pursue, going over the requirements for those applications, and one of those requirements being the A through G requirement. So we'll go take a deep dive on that, and then I'll do a brief overview of IYT and our program, as well as the sites that we are present at, and then we'll go ahead and end the session for any questions. All right, so jumping right into it, talking about the different systems of higher education, there's so many different pathways that student can take once they graduate from high school, right? So going straight into career. But today we're going to be focusing on the different types of higher education that they can pursue. With this, there's also networking and career access, study abroad programs, and the opportunity for doing research at some of these universities, and always building on students' leadership skills. The first one that we're going to be talking about is community college. So at a community college, students are able to receive an associate's degree within 2 years, or they can receive their associates and transfer over to a four-year university. So they do have a specific program that ensures that students are taking the correct classes so that they can seamlessly transfer over to a four-year university, whether that is a CSU and UC, which we'll talk about in just a second, or even an out-of-state school as well. So we want to make sure that students are able to transfer over if that is their plan, or if their plan is to just get an associate's degree in 2 years and go into the workforce, that is also an option. At community college, students do have a more flexible schedule and more options for classes, and the focus of the GED, which are general education degree and requirements, are at a lower cost. So here in California, through the Promise Grant, the first 2 years of community college are actually free. So we always encourage our students, either whether on the fence, right, of going in straight into the workforce or going to college, to apply to a community college as well. So this just showcases a map of all the community colleges here in California, with 116 colleges and 1.8 million students attending on average the community college systems. Moving into the CSU, which stands for California State Universities. So at this system, students are able to earn their bachelor's degree as well as a master's. In California, there are 23 CSU campuses and many social and professional opportunities in a selection of extracurricular activities. There are some campuses that have D1 level sports, right? If our students are interested in sports, and just the different organizations and clubs that they can join as well. There is a higher level of courses as well as a larger student body in comparison to a community college. And in regards to financial costs, the federal and in-state tuition in California, for California residents, they pay an estimated about almost $6,000 per year. But this is a lot cheaper than if students were coming from out of state going to one of our to a CSU university. This showcases a map of the CSUs, the closest one to us obviously being Sacramento, as well as Sonoma. We have Chico up and Stanislaus and East Bay. And then I'll touch a little bit about it too, but through IYT, there are guaranteed admissions programs. So there are, specific kind of like partnerships that students may have that they can get guaranteed access admissions to some of these universities. For CSU, some statistics: 94% of the undergrads actually come from California, and it takes an average about 4.7 years to complete a degree for freshmen, and the freshman graduation rate is about 35%. For a campus size, it does vary. There's various campus sizes, the smallest CSU being Cal Maritime with just about 900 undergrads, while the largest CSU is CSU Fullerton in SoCal with about 35,000 undergrads. Moving over to UC, so this stands for the University of California. Here, students are able to earn their bachelor's and their master's as well as their doctorates. There are 9 UC campuses, technically 10, but UC San Francisco only offers graduate program classes. And then over across the different UCs, there's 5 medical centers, 3 national laboratories, and they're ranked some of the best public universities in the world, serving over 238,000 students in total. In regards to financial costs for California residents, it is about estimated for 13,000 per school year. So it is more, it costs more than a CSU university or than the CSU campuses, right? But again, now with FAFSA being open, always taking into consideration, always making sure that, we help our students apply and submit their FAFSA to see what kind of financial aid they'll be getting to help support the financial cost of college, since that's typically the biggest barrier that students may face. This showcases a map of the UC campuses here in California, also just noting once again that UC San Francisco only offers graduate programs. And then some statistics for the UCs, 83% of undergrads come from California, and on average, it takes about 4.17 years to complete a degree, and then the freshman graduation rate is about 86%. For the campus size, again, there is it is going to be larger than our CSU campuses, but it does range in size, with UC Merced being the smallest UC campus with just about 8,000 undergrads, while UCLA has the largest UC campus with over 32,000 students. So now just to compare the differences between a community college, so a 2-year, and then our 4-year universities with CSU and UC. So at a community college, the class sizes are going to be typically a lot smaller, ranging an average about 20 students, right? So this means that students do get a lot more one-on-one time with professors. And like I mentioned, that for degree programs, it takes 2 years to get an associate's degree, or if students are interested in transferring over to a 4-year, they can get their associates and transfer over to get their bachelor's degree. For transferring credits, we do want to make sure that if a student is interested in transferring, that is they're informed and their counselor knows that in college, so that they're on the right track and taking the right courses, because sometimes we want to ensure that if they are planning to transfer over, that the courses that they're taking, they will receive credit, and that will transfer over to the 4-year university. For tuition, because through, again, the Promise Grant, right, the first 2 years are free, it is going to be a lot more affordable at a community college. And for the academic quality, like I said, it's going to have a lot more one-on-one time with the professor, and they're more likely to have background in the industry. For student life, most community colleges do not have campus housing, and this is why we really encourage our students that if you're going to a community college, they tend to be commuter schools, so students are just going to class and coming home. I know a lot of students may tend to work a part-time or even a full-time job as well, but to really immerse yourself, because this is the time that students are getting to really find independence, find themselves, learn more about what they want to do, what they want to study, and just their passion in life. So really encouraging them to participate on-campus activities, join a club or an organization, or even, just intramural sports that are not as competitive as, the club or the school sports as well, but just really getting involved in campus, because this helps kind of get them motivated to keep continuing pursuing their education, and just provide more opportunities for them to connect with others and really just get to know themselves more. Continuing on, there is more flexibility at community colleges, especially with the student age range. There are some students that are in high school taking community college classes, but there are also some that are returners, right? So there are students that may be 15 years old, and there may be students that are around 6 years old as well. So there is more flexibility in scheduling classes around work and other responsibilities. And then in regards to financial aid, community college students are eligible, and 60% of those who apply do receive aid. Especially now post-COVID, there is a lot more options for online classes as well. So there is a wider range of either hybrid or fully online courses as well, for students that may not want to go on campus, even though personally I would recommend to take classes in person. But again, just flexibility wise, if there are work responsibilities and things like that, there are online classes available for that. For career prospects, many jobs can be accessed with an associate's degree, but again, just highly encouraging that students transfer and get their bachelor's degree just because it does give access to a wider range of careers. Moving on to private and out-of-state schools. So at these universities, you can earn your bachelor's and master's as well as the doctorates. So for these ones, most of the funding do come from donations and tuition as opposed to taxes and federal funding. And for California residents, going to a private and or out-of-state university will cost more. They tend to do. And, they're generally smaller than public schools and have smaller class sizes. So there is that more one-on-one time with the professors. But again, it does come at a higher cost. So in regards to financial cost, the average private nonprofit university student spends about a total of $55,000 per academic year living on campus. And then out of that 55, 38 of it typically goes to the tuition and fees. So these are just some factors to consider if a student may be interested in going to an out-of-state college, right? You want to make sure that you're researching the state reciprocity and exchange agreements. With California, there are some states that have certain agreements that saying like they won't charge the out-of-state fee. Also applying for tuition waiver. It is also more helpful too if a student establishes residency in that state before going to that university. So in the case that you may have family living in that state and then they want to live there, become a resident, and then apply to that university so that they don't get charged the out-of-state student fee. Applying to a school where you may have family that have legacy there, right? Applying for merit and need-based scholarship, and then visiting college fairs and open houses. There are some events here in Sacramento, and even at some specific school sites that they will have multiple different colleges and universities, even those that out of state, to do a college fair. So this is a great opportunity, as it can be expensive to do a campus tour out of state to go see that campus. At least you're able to see admissions representative to talk about the different colleges that they may be interested in. Again, also just considering the on-campus social life and then spending a little extra time on the application process for these out-of-state colleges and privates, because for their application process, as we'll talk about later in a second, they do require letters of recommendation. So those can come from either teachers or mentors or coaches, right? As well as additional essays that may be required for those applications. The last system that I'll be going over is HBCUs, which stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. Here, students are able to earn their bachelor's, master's, as well as their doctorates. There are 107 HBCU campuses in the United States, both a mix of private and public institution. And in regards to financial costs, the average total cost of attending an HBCU ranges from about $26,000 to $30,000 for on-campus students. And then this just showcases a map of HBCUs. So all HBCUs are going to be on the East Coast, right? And again, just mentioning there are 107 campuses, universities, as well as roughly about 228,000 students attending HBCUs, and just a mix of public and private universities as well. Some statistics, there is a 40% acceptance rate for HBC universities. Depending on the specific university, the GPA requirement can range between a 2.5 to a 3.0, and 70% of students do receive financial aid and are eligible for the Pell Grant. Transitioning into the A3G requirements. So over here on the right-hand side is kind of an outline of the A3G requirements, and these are the minimum set of courses required for admission as a freshman. So this will be for the systems that we talked about for UCs and CSUs. So I'll just go over and we'll take a little bit of a deeper dive on the importance of A3G and just giving, just more information about it. But these are the courses that are required for minimum set of courses required for admission as a freshman to either a UC and a CSU. So for the first section, it's going to be section A, which is history. So there are two courses. So 2 years of history is required for both UC and CSU. For section B, it's going to be our English section. So this for both UC and CSU, again, 4 years is required. So that means the student should be taking English every single year that they're in high school. For section C, this is going to be for mathematics. For both UC and CSU, what is required is 3 years, but it is recommended that a student takes 4 years of mathematics. And then for section D, this is for a laboratory science. Again, it is required that a student take 2 years and pass those, but it's recommended that a student takes 3 years of science. And then for section E, this is going to be the language, and the requirement is 2 years again, but recommended 3. This does have to be 2 years of the same language. So in the case that, for example, a student took French their freshman year, but then decided to switch to Spanish their sophomore year, it does have to be 2 years of Spanish, or they can go back and take French too to have 2 years of French. But it does have to be at least 2 years of the same language course. For section F, this is for visual and performing arts. 1 year is required for this, and then 1 year is also required for section G, which is for the college prep elected courses. So this may be psychology, sociology. It just depends on, I know it can differ by district, but the best way to, and I'll also talk about a great tool to see, to use to see if your student is on track for A through G and which courses they've taken that count towards these requirements, just to see where your student is at, if they have to retake any courses, or if your student is currently a junior, right, just to see what courses should they be prioritizing going into their senior year. I would like to note that the A through G requirements is different from the high school graduation requirements here in California. So the A through G requirements that UCs and CSUs require is a little bit more in comparison to just graduation requirements here in California. So for graduation requirements, it is just 3 years of English, 2 years of math, 2 years of science, 3 years of social studies, and then 1 year in either a visual performing arts or world language, and then 2 years in physical education. So these are high school graduation requirements, which differs. It counts, taking these classes count towards through the A through G, but it doesn't match the same year of requirements for that. So this is a tool that I wanted to go over. So this is the californiacolleges.edu. Recently learned about this one. It's great to track multiple things. So the first thing that this website tracks is the A through G completion. So with every student in California, as long as you have your student state ID, you can input that here. Especially here in Sacramento, and I believe Natomas is a partnered district with this organization. So when you put your student ID into here, it actually tracks the classes that you've taken based off of your transcripts, and it highlights which classes are counted towards A through G that you have passed, which I'd like to note that for A through G to count as passing, it has to be a C or above. So for example, if a student took English 9, right, their first freshman year English, and they got a D, although it may be counted as, or like a C minus, it may count as passing for high school graduation. It doesn't count towards A through G. So all of those A through G courses, a student does have to receive a grade of a C or higher. But through here again, once a student puts their ID, it pulls their transcript and shows all of the classes that count towards those A through G requirements. It'll highlight them in green. If it is highlighted in red, that means this class does not count towards A through G. So that might be like the physical education class, right? PE is not counted towards A through G. And then yellows are the one that is going to be like a warning. So this means that either the student did not pass that course, or it doesn't count towards A through G as well. Another great thing that this tool also provides is that it provides direct links to all of the applications for the different systems that we went over. So it does provide direct link to the Cal State Apply to apply for CSUs. It provides direct links to the UC application to apply for the UCs, as well as the FAFSA application as well. So for the financial aid, everything can be accessed through this website here. All right. So the purpose of A through G, really, again, students must successfully complete these A through G in high school requirements to be eligible for a UC, CSUs, and other colleges and universities. They do take into account the GPA, right? So for CSUs, minimum GPA is a 2.5. for UCs, the minimum GPA is a 3.0. And really the importance is to ensure that all incoming first-year students are prepared for college-level coursework and to promote equity in higher education. So students should be knowledgeable about what they're expected to complete during high school, really, again, providing, working with counselors, working with our students to make sure that they know what the A3G requirements are and they're not kind of just taking their schedule. They're aware of what classes they need to take if they do plan on pursuing higher education. In the case that a student is not on track, so for example, if they have failed their freshman and sophomore year of English, right? If they have any courses that are below a C or have not taken their third year of mathematics, right? So some of these things that they can do to get back on track is retaking a course. So this can be done during the school year. So for example, if they're not in their senior year yet, if they are a sophomore or junior, you can already know that a student has failed a course, retaking it during the next school year or even during summer school. So applying to retake that course fully to get a better grade, doubling up on courses in the same requirement. So this may look like taking 2 different mathematics during your junior year, right? If you didn't pass your freshman year. Another option is dual enrollment. So this means that students are taking our class that does count towards community college credits as well. And then summer school, I know the space and openings for this may differ just depending on the specific school that the student is attending, but summer school is another way that a student can retake a course, and then online options as well. So there are some programs that a student can retake the course through online that is not through the summer school, through the school site is what I'm trying to say. So going over the application requirements for the CSUs, the requirements to apply to this higher education system includes graduating high school, completing those A through G requirements that we went over, and then, like I mentioned, a GPA of a 2.5. For the UCs, it is also required that the student would graduate high school, complete the A through G courses, as well as the difference here is that the minimum GPA is a 3.0. For privates and out of states, the requirements is also graduating high school, completing those A through G courses, and then GPA requirement is a 3.0. Depending on the university, there might be some privates that require above a 3.0 GPA. So for example, off the top of my head, St. Mary's University or St. Mary's College here in California requires a 3.2. And then letters of recommendation. So some universities will require students to submit 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, and students can reach out to either their teachers, their mentors, or coaches if they're in a sport to provide this letter of recommendation. And for HBCUs, the requirements include graduating high school, completing those A through G courses, and then depending on the specific HBCU university, the GPA can range from a 2.5 to a 3.0, just depending on the specific university. For community college, the only requirement to attend a community college is to possess a high school diploma or the equivalent of a GED. I'm going to transition over to talking a little bit about IYT, the organization I'm representing from. So IYT is a college access organization based here in Sacramento, but we've actually expanded out to be a nationwide organization. We serve with the mission to increase the number of young men of color to attend and graduate from colleges and universities. And we envision a nation in which young men of color are overrepresented in the higher education system, underrepresented in the criminal justice system, and are leaders in their community. And then here on the bottom, we have our values, which is liberation, service, character, and teamwork. These are some of the services that IYT provides. So we provide mentorship, which is on-site, and students, members of the program receive bi-weekly mentorship. So students are pulled out during the day to meet with their assigned mentor for 30 minutes. And during these mentorship sessions, we go over academic advising, we go over wellness and just checking in and relationship building with the students. We also provide college advising, more resources for our juniors and our seniors with assistance and support applying applying for college applications, financial aid, and just getting them back on track if they're not on track for A through G, and just kind of analyzing their transcript, making sure that they're all good to go to apply come their senior year. We also do a lot of member development workshops. This is during our programming time. Most of our sites are after school programming. There are a few that do provide daytime programming, but these workshops can include talking about a lot of different things from like leadership, wellness. We do a lot of kind of like young men of color at the table, just talking about different experiences, and a lot of relationship building and just connecting with the students as well. Academic study hall is also during our programming time. So we do dedicate 30 minutes for study hall, making sure that the students are completing their homework assignments, catching up on any missing assignments, as well as not specifically tutoring, but assistance with completing their homework as well. Another service that we provide are college tours. So each of our school sites go on 2 college tours to universities, and that could be either a CSU, a UC, or a private. And then we also do provide parent engagement opportunities through workshops, as well as a couple events throughout the year. And then our mentors are also contacting parents every time that they have a mentorship with a student, just to update them about what happened and what was discussed during the session. The last thing I'll go over is some of the school sites that Natomas, the IYT is present at Natomas USD. So these sites include Natomas High School, Inderkum High School, Discovery High School, Natomas Middle School, and Jefferson K through 8. That was the last bit of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. And if there's any questions, I'll go ahead and open it up.
Okay, so if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can also put it in the chat.
Yes, Srini?
Hello. So I
Hello.
would like to know if you guys are present in NP3 High School, Natomas Specific Pathways Prep.
IYT, so the IYT is only currently present at these sites that are listed here, unfortunately.
Uh, and do you have any sites for scholarships?
So a lot of our we do provide scholarships. It is because through IYT, the audience are young men of color. Most of the scholarships that IYT do provide are specifically for those students or just more towards that audience. But there are a lot of websites, and just especially like looking into maybe what field you're interested in or just the eligibility requirements. It can also, a great resource too is your high school website. So they do have links as well to just scholarships that may be more specific to your area, your district, or even just what you're looking for more specifically, because there's thousands of scholarships out there, but there are a lot that are easy to apply to that may not require an essay write, and there are some that are very niche to maybe what you're looking for and can have like a lot more chances of getting a scholarship if it's very specific too. So I would just say keywords that you're looking for, or just scholarships in general. That's another way to just kind of like say like scholarships due in October for high school students. Tons and thousands of scholarships will pop up on Google.
Thank you so much.
Do we have any other questions? I don't see any in the chat currently. Okay, if there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and end the session. I will email over the link to the video recording as well as the presentation tomorrow. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.